welcome to another episode of In the Corner with me, Chloe. Every week on the show, we explore many topics that I enjoy talking about. And this week, I'll be covering a more serious topic, which is mental health. With the world watching the Olympics, mental health has finally getting the attention it deserves. And more people are finally choosing not to suffer in silence, which I am so happy. And I'm so happy that so many people are really choosing to take this step. And the stigma behind not being okay mentally is finally changing as big names in all walks of life speak out about not being okay, which is okay. For example, Simone Biles recently made a decision to pull out of the team finals in Tokyo, and that received many kinds of responses from people around the world. And Naomi Osaka has also been both praised and criticized for withdrawing from the French Open. So let's dive in and talk about mental health. I personally support Simone and Naomi. They are the most amazing and inspiring women, especially for their impressive accomplishments under their belt. These are the people that you really want to look up to, not just because they're girls of color. They they're just everything to look up to here. However, as we cheer at their accomplishments, the weight of the world is on them to represent not only themselves but their country. Imagine having to have that huge weight of knowing that I have to do this for my country. My whole country is counting on me to win this. But with that weight, you have to take a step back a lot of times because it's just crucial. It's important to understand the magnitude of what it takes to operate at their level. I know sometimes when I'll be watching the Olympics, I really have to sit and think oh my gosh, they have all of this weight on them. They're doing it so perfect though. And I know it probably has to be very hard on their mental health, even because their lives are just different from most of us as well. They eat, sleep, and live their sport. And like I said, there's this huge expectation on them to be and do and perform at a certain level. And maybe at times it's not a realistic expectation. And these expectations can also change their relationship with the sport, a sport they enjoyed before they can turn into a burden. When so much expectation and external pressure is placed on them, imagine loving something and starting something because you love it. And then now you've become so big and you do the Olympics and do things like this, and now having this huge weight of I have to do this for my country, and then if I mess up, there it goes down the drain type situation. And also it's their career on the line as well. So it's really these things you really have to think about as well when you think about these people, and especially these girls in the Olympics and just people in general that are doing these kind of sports that have this weight on them. It's always great just to take a step back and really realize the weight that's on their shoulders and how we can kind of relieve that. And that's why I really support what's going on with them, because it's always great to take those step backs. Even though it may be big and some people may not agree with them, it's still a step back they have to take to make sure that they're okay. So we just have to remember that we make sure that everybody else is okay and that they're doing okay before we make them have this huge burden be put upon them. So, how I really feel about mental health overall. I think mental health is something that we need to upkeep. It's something that I love upkeeping because I know that it's going to make sure that I'm okay internally, and in my mind and mindfully. And one thing I know with mental health in teens is that a lot of times it can be a lot harder because of school or sports, even, the idea of sports and just any sort of extracurricular activities. It could sometimes affect your mental health, even the workload that a lot of kids are given in school. Even in the last episode, I was talking about how I'm going to be taking college classes. I know it's going to be really stressful, and I'm going to really have to upkeep my mental health while in school because of the workload I'm going to have to endure. And I know that some things that we face these days, it can be that mental health is hard to upkeep, especially with COVID and happening. All of that was such a depressing day and age for a while. That whole year was pretty depressing. And, being stuck at home, just learning about everything that was going on in the world all at the same time, but also being burdened with the fact that it's a pandemic too. Like, even trying to wrap your head around that, it can be quite crazy. And so, really, there was so much going on with teens just to upkeep their mental health, all of these things going on, and even just kids in general. And so I know that that had a crucial part. And even social media can have a big pressure to live up to certain like images that we're bombarded with. But luckily now with social media, it's really showcasing the fact that everybody's perfect no matter how you look, and you not have to be bombarded with these, square boxes that you got to stick to type situation. And that's something that I'm really loving about nowadays social media, is that it's really showcasing you don't have to fit in this box type situation. And I love it. And one thing I know is that a lot of times people, and teens especially, don't know where to go or don't know. And I feel as if there are a lot of things that are really great for teens when it comes to mental health. A lot of great websites, a lot of great places to call. And I think those are always important. I even learned through TikTok that there is a phone number where you can just call and scream and yell, which I want to do one day. Like, when I just want to let out a good yell, you can just call it and you can just yell. And I know they have like a whole list of people just yelling on their phone. But it's just a great way to let out your emotions and how you feel. And, sometimes you can't just write it down. Sometimes you can't just draw it out like I like to do. I like to draw out how I feel a lot of times when I can't speak it. Sometimes you just got to let out a good yell, and having resources like that are always great. And it's something that I just love to hear. And one thing I know about mental health is that there really should be classes on it. We really should be teaching each other on how we can upkeep our mental health, what we can do, resources, especially in schools. Because, like I was saying, like, schools have such a huge weight on our mental health just because of everything that you have to do, all of the workload, everything, upkeeping your grades, upkeeping with your extracurriculars, with your friends, all of that. It's a lot on the mental health, a lot on the big cranium up there. So I think it's something that we just really need to upkeep, and something that we need to implement in schools, whether it's just having activities like yoga or meditation, like those just simple things, just taking those times and having those classes just so that we can take a second and breathe, and so that we're not going back and forth on different things and stressing over one thing and then going on the next thing and stressing more. Just having that time to just breathe in and breathe out just a couple times, or stretch out a bit, not having to sit in a clunky chair all day, like stretching out, breathing, all of it. Like, they should be daily practices that we should keep up with and upkeep, especially in school. Another major education that goes hand in hand with mental health is the role food plays on our mental health. Gut health in many people can be the cause of anxiety, depression, and other mental challenges. Like, for example, biology class shouldn't just be about anatomy, but also how our diet can affect the poor performance of our organs, that then can lead to poor mental and emotional health. With that being said, let's move on to our good vibes segment. Since we are talking about mental health, this week on our Good Vibes Store, we decided to feature none other than Simone, Biles, and Naomi for taking strides and standing up for themselves, and for those who are struggling with mental health. Thank you, ladies, for being such strong role models. I am sending all the healing good vibes. It is my wish that both of you and many, many people out there that are struggling with mental health are surrounded by loved ones and have the support system to get through it. Obviously, wishing someone good health is just not enough, and we all have to take those steps in any way we can to make life easier for others. And with that being said, every kind word, act, effort you make adds to the well-being of us. So do your part. That is all for this segment. Let's move on to Chloe's library. Welcome to Chloe's Library. Each week I handpick a book from my favorite reads and I talk to you about what I learned. This week I chose Bad Girls Throughout History, 100 Remarkable Women Who Changed the World by Anne Shea. I'm going to start with a quick description on the book based off of what it says on the back. And then I'm going to do a little description on like what I got from the book and stuff that I liked and stuff. So I'm going to read the description. It says the 100 revolutionary women featured in this gorgeously illustrated book, which it is, were bad in the best sense of the word. They challenged the status quo and changed the rules for those who followed. From ancient times through present day, from pirates to artists, science to spies, these courageous women achieved unprecedented feats and left a permanent mark on human history. So, you know how we talked about the last book and it was Make Trouble, and it was all about teaching girls about making trouble in a good sense. That's pretty much like this book, but it showcases the women that did it, and it showcased the women that made strides. And that's what I loved about this book, is that it was showcasing different women that made strides, and it's people, like I said, from present day to centuries ago. And it is amazing. I really, really, really do love this book. I got to learn about many women I didn't know about before, and even women that I already knew about. Like, I got to learn so much more about them. And one thing I do wish was a little different is that it was a bit of a longer description on all the women. Like, some of them have short descriptions, some of them have long descriptions, and I know that, like, I now have the names of them, so now I can look them up and everything, which I'm very excited to do, and I'm happy that I have the internet so I can do that. So I'm very excited to look up all these women, but overall, I give it a 9.5 out of 10, and that's what or even like a 10 out of 10. It's an amazing book, especially for girls who want to learn and want to get inspired by some amazing women. This is the book for you, and it's 100 of them. If you really need someone to look up to, there's 100 women in here for you to do it. Things that I learned, it's just the amazing strides that women could do. I don't think I really realized all the women that did so much, not only just for girls in general or women in general, but what they did to make history. That's something that is just what is amazing to me, is all the women that made history, and they found 100 of them. And I know there's probably thousands of women of them, but picking just these 100 just to see, it's amazing. So, like I said, it's an amazing book, and it's all about teaching girls and just women in general about the amazing strides of women in history. So I recommend this book to everyone. So it's a yes from me. So yes, I recommend it to everyone. So what are you waiting for? Buy your copy and indulge in this amazing book. Thank you. Oh my gosh, such an amazing book. That is it for this week's show. As always, be sure to participate in the chat below and leave us your comments. If you want to see more of what I'm up to, head over to @ChloeCares on my IG page. Catch you guys later. Bye!